Okay, morning guys, welcome back to the channel. What I wanted to do today was just to show you how to replace the studs, which are spot welded to the underneath of the Porsche, which hold on the splash tray underneath the car, the right way. There's there's loads of entries into forums on the internet, on Renlist and various other Porsche forums that I've found. And lots of people do it differently. But what I thought I'd do is I'd show you the way Porsche do it and the tools they use and the parts they use to do it with. Just to give you an idea, underneath the car, I don't know, there's probably 30 of them. And what happens is, if you're sort of unlucky enough to have, had the car in an area which, suffers from rust quite badly, like the UK, where they use salt on the roads and there's regular rain and there's regular winters, then what happens to the undersides of these cars is they pick up on the lowest points really, which are indeed these studs which hold on the splash trays, and they just corrode like that. I don't know if you can see that very well, if my camera can focus, but they just rust beyond use really. They don't quite rust away, I suppose they would over time, but this one even here is even narrower, and what happens is the quick nuts that go on them to hold the trays on, they just don't hold anymore. So they need to be replaced. So the way Porsche tell you to do it is to grind them off, use an M5 drill bit to drill through the base of the car, which is the only part of this I don't really like, and then you use riv studs to replace them with, and I'll show you what that is and the tools to use that now. This is the riv stud. They do two sizes of these. They do M5 and M6. I went for the M5 version, and as you can see, you drill the hole like any riv stud or riv nut. Drill the hole, push it in, and then use a tool to sort of expand it within that hole. So this is the part number, and they are literally €2 each plus VAT, so they're not cheap. And I bought about 20 here, and that will probably do me. I probably won't need 20, but it's always good to have a few spares. So the tool that Porsche use is quite an expensive tool. I think it retails, if you can get it. I think you need to get it as a business. You get it as in the trade. I wasn't able to find one new. I even spoke to Bullhoff, and they only direct you to suppliers. And it's called the Bullhoff rivkler system, which does riv studs and riv nuts. And this version is the rivkler ZS308. So just to give you an idea, and it says made in the United States. With a name like that, I would have thought that's a German company, but it seems to be an American company. And this is what the tool looks like. It's not pneumatic, it's not air powered or anything, it's literally a handheld thing. And it has different connections that go on the end. And I actually borrowed this one. They were very kind to actually lend it to me from my local OPC centre. And yeah, so this is what it's like. Basically what you do is you screw this little chap into there. Let me just do that. It's a very simple system, obviously. That goes in there. You drill your hole in the part of the body which needs drilling, and then essentially, you push that in through the hole, just like a stud, and then pull this back down, and that expands that end part there, and you're done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably put a bit of sealant in with it, because obviously that's going to be closing onto bare metal. And anyway, when I'm done with all this work, so I'm doing a huge amount of work on this car at the moment, I'm going to seal the internals of the chassis, and then use sealing wax on the inside. I'll get that done professionally. But yeah, that is the tool. That is the name of the tool. As I say, if you can find one. I actually found a used one on eBay, and it was €400, so they are not cheap, especially as you're not going to use them that often. And again, that is the part number for the riv studs. So let's get started. Okay, so this is the first one I'm going to repair. Not because it's rusted, it's actually new. But what I did was, last summer, when I was doing all that work on the exhaust system and so on, this one broke off when I was taking the heat shield off. So essentially I bought one of the parts from Porsche, and JB welded it to the chassis. And I must admit that JB weld stuff is insane. It's so strong. I actually used it on my Land Rover as well for some body panels, and it is absolutely solid as rock. But on the basis that I've got the right tools now, I'm going to knock this off with the hammer and clean up the space underneath, measure it up using the heat shield again to make sure I get the right place and make my first drill. Okay, so I've made the first hole in there, and what I've used there is a 7mm drill bit, because actually these are, yeah, 6 just isn't big enough. This is like 7, just under 7. There's a little bit, tiny bit of play in there, so I could probably go for a 6.5. Unfortunately, there's no literature with the tools, so I'm literally just doing this first one by ear. I did try it out on a piece of metal over here, and 7 seemed about right, but as I say, it's, oh, I can't really do it with one hand, but it's just a little bit, very little bit loose. But I'm gonna put some etch primer on that hole that I just made, and then I'm gonna dip the top of this in some sealant that I've got over there and then fit it. Okay, so I've just done the first one. As I said, you know, when I drilled, I put some etch primer back on the surface, and I dipped the end of the stud in some sealant. So this is actually my second go. So this is a word of warning. These are very strong. They're very powerful, I should say, these pliers. And if you over pump that tool, it literally just snaps it off. And you have to start again. You have to grind down. I have to grind down with the angle grinder, that stud that was sticking out there, that had snapped off. And now in here, there's the back end of that old stud. So I've got to try and fish it out somewhere with a magnet or something. So that's a real word of warning. You've got to be so careful. That must have been maybe 2 or 3 pumps, I think, to very careful. And then when you take it out, you can see that is steady, it's, yeah, stable as hell. So that's my word of warning for you. What else did I want to say? Yeah, I've still got to work out how this tool works properly, because essentially this part, no, where is it? This part, which has the counterpart to the stud that you're installing, goes in there, and this part goes on top. But I can't see any clear way of actually, once you've fitted the stud, of removing that properly. So I've got to play around with that for a little bit. So onwards to the next one. Okay, so I'm just going to pack up for today. I didn't get that far really. I worked out how to use that tool, that Bullhoff tool, pretty well, and I got 3 done. But what I realized, and this is where you always have to be really careful with these things, is that there are 2 different sizes of those riv studs on this car. There's M5 and there's M6. So what I've ascertained is the only place that it uses M5, which is, I don't know why they bothered, was on these 2 places, on these chassis rails at the back here to support the heat shields for the silencers, and the heat shield fixings around here. So this L shape, you know, that and that are all M5, and the rest of them are M6. So unfortunately, I didn't quite realize that until I'd fitted 2 new ones. I did these 2 here. That one there looks really good, and then that one there also looks really good. But unfortunately, it's the wrong size. I fitted the little clips that go on there, and they just sort of sit on there, but don't really hold. So I'm not taking those 2 out again. Or I can take one of them out, but not the other one, because it goes through into the body. And there's soundproofing underneath there, so I can't angle grind that out anymore, because it'll just, you know, set the soundproofing on fire. So I'm stuck with at least one of them, if not 2. And what I'll have to do is I'll have to put some metal tape over that M5 fitting, so it'll accept the M6 bracket that goes on there. But it only so in effect it's only one that I have to deal with, because I can take the other one out. But I'm bloody happy I realised that now at the beginning, because I had 20 of these to do, and Jesus, that would have been a disaster. So I'm really counting my lucky stars that I realised that early on in the process. So Porsche's closed now. They close at 1 o'clock on a Saturday, and I'm just going to leave it. It's absolutely freezing in the workshop, and I'm just going to order the bits for next week and see if I can get that tool, because I've been lent that tool to do the work when I get the other parts. So I'm going to pack up there, but it's a lesson learned. So the first lesson is don't pump too hard on that tool, because obviously it breaks the studs, and then you've got to grind the back bit out again, which is a pain in the ass, which happened to me. And the second thing is, don't forget that only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these studs on the bottom of this Porsche 996 are M5 fittings. All of the rest, and that's probably about 30, are M6. Okay, see you later. Okay guys, so I just wanted to jump in very quickly at the end of this video, because there's something I said which wasn't correct. And a bit of time has gone past since I made this video, and I found out later on. So what I just said was, on the bottom of the car, from factory, there are a mixture of M5 and M6 studs. But that's not true. In fact, from factory, they are all M5. They're true M5. So I've got a few originals left on the car, and I measured them with the vernier gauge, and they are dot-on M5 studs. And the replacements that you buy from Porsche, which I've put on this car, they say M5 on the bag, but they're not M5, they're M4.8. So they're 0.2 of a millimeter smaller than M5, which makes, unbelievably, quite a lot of difference. The difference between the old fixtures, fitting and not fitting on the bottom. So the brackets which I've screwed off of the true M5, they just sort of slide over the threads on the M4.8. So it means that you can't use the old brackets. So when I went to Porsche, I told them about this, and they didn't know about the issue. And they laid out all the parts. They actually ordered some parts for this experiment, and realized themselves that, that the replacement Bullhoff studs are M4.8. Porsche have overcome this issue by recreating the little metal secure nuts, which go on here, quick nuts I should say, which hold on the heat shields at the back. So they've reproduced those to fit 4.8, M4.8, and also the underbody quick nuts in plastic. So they've reproduced an extra run of M4.8 quick nuts, which is really strange, because they've obviously, I don't know if it's a mistake or whether it was intentional, but anyway, the reality is, apart from the small quick nuts which hold on the heat shields and the underbody guards, all of the other brackets are built around the M5 studs, and they do not have a solution for the M4.8 studs if you were to swap out some of those studs. So I just wanted to let you know that, because I find this out later on in the restoration, but that video is going to be maybe in a few months' time. So I just wanted to correct myself at this point in time, so that you don't think that it's a mixture of M5 and M6 studs underneath the car. It's not, they're all M5.